Okay, so are you ready to, like, go way back, time travel, back to the very beginning?
Back to the beginning?
Because
Yeah.
today's deep dive, Pentateuch.
Oh, wow.
The first 5 books of the Bible, we're talking Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
The big ones.
I mean, huge.
Yeah.
And chances are, even if you don't know, like, every verse and chapter,
Right.
you know something from these books.
You know Noah's Ark.
Bruh.
You know the 10 Commandments. Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're everywhere.
They're part of our culture.
They really are. But, okay, you've given us, like, a stack of sources that goes so far beyond just, like, the Sunday school version of these stories.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
We're talking, like, theological interpretations, historical analysis, like, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So where on earth do we even begin with something as massive as the Pentateuch?
I mean, I think, like with a house, right?
Okay.
You got to start with the foundation, right?
Okay.
And Genesis, that's our foundation.
Okay, so Genesis chapter 1.
But it's not even just the creation story, though.
Right.
That's a big part of it.
Okay.
But it's really about God's authority, right?
You think?
From the get-go.
Like, bam, authority established.
It's like, this is how it is. This is who's in charge. Everything operates under this authority.
Okay.
So if you don't get that, if you don't start there, then you're not going to understand the rest.
So you're saying that God as the ultimate authority, like that's the creator.
That's it.
That's key to unlocking the rest of the book.
100%, yeah. Because these books, it's not just stories, right? Right.
This is a guidebook.
Okay.
This is like how to live in a world where this God is in charge.
Yeah. Okay, and part of that is that we're made in his image, right?
Yes.
That's Genesis.
Yes, that's right.
That's always kind of tripped me up, to be honest. Because I always thought, like, literally.
Well, a lot of people do, right?
Right.
But it's so much deeper than that.
Okay.
It's about reflecting God.
Okay.
So, yeah, we don't look exactly like him. But love,
Okay.
creativity,
Yeah.
justice,
Okay.
we're made in the image of that.
So we're talking about, like, his characteristics.
Yes, it changes how we live even today.
Okay. So this isn't just some, like, ancient history, like, oh, that's nice.
Oh,
But, like, really applicable stuff.
This is for now,
Okay.
and we're still in chapter 1.
Oh.
That's a big deal. We're only in chapter 1. And then things go downhill kind of fast, don't they?
Yeah.
Forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Humanity kind of drops the ball big time.
Yeah. Genesis 3, Paradise Lost. The fall.
The fall. And that, I mean, as old as that story is,
Right.
it explains a lot about how we still are.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That temptation, it's wrong.
Right.
But it seems so good in the moment.
Right. We've all been there.
We've all done it.
Oh, yeah. And that's where sin comes in.
Exactly. And I know that's kind of a loaded word.
Yeah.
But really, it's just that broken connection.
Okay.
Our choices separate us from God.
Okay.
And that it impacts everything.
Okay.
That brokenness, it has ripple effects.
Like the flood, the Tower of Babel.
Exactly.
Those early Genesis stories.
Yeah.
They're intense.
Intense. And they keep showing up.
Right.
Humanity messing up. We face the consequences.
Right.
And God's like, okay, how can we fix this?
He's always trying to repair.
Yeah.
Like constantly.
That's the thing about God. He's always drawing us back to himself.
He's always pursuing.
Yeah.
And that's where these covenants come in, right? All these promises.
Yes. Promises.
Okay, so for those of us who haven't cracked open the Bible in a while,
Right.
what are covenants in the Pentateuch?
They're kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
They're these binding agreements
Okay.
between God and us, between God and humanity.
So they're not just like these ancient contracts that are like, okay, I promise this, you do that.
They are, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
They show us God's character
Okay.
and his plan.
His plan.
His plan for humanity.
Interesting.
They're throughout these books. Noah, Abraham, Moses.
Okay, so even when the Israelites mess up,
And they do.
they mess up a lot.
For sure.
Constantly. Like it's amazing.
Oh,
It's
constantly.
almost every other page.
Right.
There's this sense that God's like, okay, but come on, let's get back on track.
He's like, guys, I love you, but come on.
Yeah, like we're in this together.
Exactly. I mean, look at Noah, right?
Okay.
After the flood.
Right.
He's like, look, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to wipe out humanity like that again.
Right.
And he gives us a rainbow
As a reminder.
as a sign, right,
Yeah.
to remember.
Okay, that's a nice thought.
It's a beautiful promise.
But then there's all those rules. I mean, Leviticus, that book is basically synonymous with like laws upon laws upon laws.
Yeah, it gets a bad rap, right?
Bad rap.
Leviticus is all about the rules.
Right.
But it wasn't to be like burdening them. It was holiness.
Okay.
They needed to be set apart.
Okay.
They were supposed to be different.
Different from everybody else.
Okay.
So they could show what God is like.
Okay, so not just like a laundry list of do's and don'ts,
No.
but about reflecting something bigger.
It's about reflecting God's character, yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, that's still relevant today.
It is, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
We might not have the same rituals, but the idea
Yeah.
that what we do
Mm-hmm.
impacts people.
Okay. Huge.
Right. So how does that work today? Being set apart, practically.
That's the question, isn't it? What does it mean for you?
Yeah, that's making me think, actually,
Yeah.
about my choices and
Yeah.
if they really reflect what I say I believe.
It's convicting, isn't it?
It is. Okay, and all those sacrifices in Leviticus,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, always kind of hard to wrap my head around.
A lot of blood and guts.
Yeah, it's a little much.
It's intense.
What's with all that?
It's easy to get stuck on the blood, right?
Right.
But the sacrifices in Leviticus, they weren't about like, bloodthirsty God.
Okay.
It was about understanding.
Understand.
Understanding the weight of messing up.
Sin.
Sin, exactly. And how to make things right.
Okay.
How to be close to God again.
Okay, so each sacrifice had a purpose.
Yes.
Like the burnt offering, the peace offering
All of them,
showed something different
different aspects, yeah.
of needing to like fix that connection.
Exactly. So maybe the question is, what are our sacrifices today?
My life.
What are we giving up
Right.
to make things right
Right.
with our lives, with God, with the world?
Okay, wow. That takes us straight into the wilderness wanderings, right?
It does.
Numbers in Deuteronomy. The big test.
The ultimate test.
40 years. In the desert.
Yeah. Talk about testing your patience.
I mean, I would have lost it way before 40 days, let alone 40 years.
Right?
And even with God right there with them,
Helping them out.
they could not get it together.
It's almost like they didn't want to.
Right.
I mean, you read those stories, the complaining, the doubt. It's like, come on, guys.
I know. How could they be so dense?
Right.
But then again, I'm like, oh, wait, I do that too.
We've all been there.
Right. When we question God, even though we've seen him come through,
Exactly. We forget so easily.
more times than I care to admit. So you're saying those wilderness wanderings, they're like this metaphor, not just for the Israelites,
Right.
but for our own spiritual journeys. I like that. When have you faced something that felt like a wilderness?
We all have those seasons
Yeah.
where our faith is just stretched so thin.
Right.
It's not about never doubting, though.
Okay.
It's what you do with the doubt,
Okay.
how you respond, how you cling to hope. That's what matters.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And Moses,
Well, was it?
leading them through all that.
Talk about a leadership chapter.
Talk about a challenge. I mean, but he wasn't perfect either, was he?
No one's perfect.
Right. Not even like the heroes of the faith.
No. And the text doesn't hide that. It shows us Moses' flaws and all. His frustration, his doubts,
Right.
even when he disobeys.
Wow.
But he always comes back to this, pointing people to God,
Back to God.
reminding them of God's promises, God's faithfulness, even when it was hard.
Good reminder for us, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not about being perfect,
No.
but about pointing others to something bigger,
Yes.
something beyond ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
Even when we're the ones who are struggling.
Especially then.
Speaking of big moments, we got to talk about the Exodus, right?
We can't not talk about the Exodus.
Right.
It's like the ultimate display of God's power.
Plagues.
The sea parting.
I mean, come on. That's a rescue.
It's incredible.
So what was the point of all that? What did we take away from that?
It's more than just showing off, although
Okay.
he does that pretty well.
He does. It's impressive.
Right. But it's about his willingness to intervene,
Okay.
to actually step in
Okay.
into human history, to be involved.
Yeah.
And not just to be involved, but to fight.
Okay.
To fight for those who are oppressed,
Oh,
those
no.
who are enslaved. The Exodus, it's a symbol.
A symbol of
Liberation.
freedom.
Freedom from captivity.
That's something we all long for, isn't it?
Don't we?
In some way.
In some way. To be free from suffering, from injustice.
Right. And this isn't just ancient history.
Oh, no, no, no.
Right.
This is about now.
This is bigger. You mentioned the Pentateuch kind of lays the foundation for this whole story,
He does.
a whole Bible.
Yeah.
So where does Exodus fit into that?
Uh,
How does Exodus fit into that?
It's like it's like the sneak peek,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
God's giving us a little glimpse of what he really wants to do.
Yeah.
He wants to free us, but not just from like physical chains, you know,
Right, right.
but from the stuff that holds us back on the inside, like spiritually.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the real Exodus, right?
So it's like even in this story about like Egypt and the plagues and all that,
Right.
we're seeing these hints of, like, the gospel message.
Exactly. That's what's so cool about it, right? The Exodus, it points forward to the ultimate liberation.
Okay.
And that comes through Jesus.
Okay, so Jesus is like the...
He's the ultimate liberator.
Okay.
Just like Moses led those Israelites out of slavery.
Out of Egypt.
Out of Egypt.
Okay.
Jesus came to free us from sin, from death.
And that's, like, the bigger...
That's the bigger Exodus.
Wow. Okay, so even in this ancient story, we're seeing,
It's all connected.
It's all connected. I love that. It's like layers.
Layers upon layers of meaning.
It's amazing. Okay, but before we get, like, too far ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Let's rewind a little bit.
Okay.
You keep mentioning this bigger picture.
Yeah.
This, like, unfolding plan.
Right.
So for someone who's maybe, like, new to this whole thing, or maybe they come at it from a more, like, historical perspective.
Okay.
What is that plan?
Yeah.
What's the overarching, like, what are we supposed to get from all of this?
At its heart,
Yeah.
it's a love story.
Yeah.
It's God's love for humanity, but it's a love so intense that he's willing to work through, like, centuries of us messing up.
Yeah, we're good at that.
We are really good at it.
Yeah.
All our rebellion, all our mistakes.
Right.
To bring about restoration.
Right.
To bring about redemption.
Okay, so, like, that's the end goal.
That's the end goal.
To be redeemed.
Yeah, to be made new.
Okay.
And the Pentateuch.
Boy.
It's showing us why we need that.
Okay.
Why we need to be redeemed.
Because we're broken.
Because we're broken. Because the world is a mess and it's our fault.
Yeah, it is.
It is. We did that.
We did. Okay, so the fall, the covenants, the Exodus.
It's all connected.
They're, like, pointing to something.
They're like clues.
Right.
Okay, I like that. Little hints along the way.
Little pieces of a puzzle.
Exactly.
That we're putting together to see this bigger picture.
And that picture, it's God. Who he is, what he's doing.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, following the rules.
No, it's so much bigger than that.
It's about understanding, like, why those rules are there in the first place.
It's about the heart behind the rules, yeah.
Okay, I like that. The why behind the what.
Yes. And that matters, right?
It does.
It echoes throughout the whole Bible, not just the Pentateuch.
Wow.
From the sacrifices to the food laws, it's about recognizing that our actions, they have consequences.
They do.
They impact us. They impact God. They impact the people around us.
It's like this ripple effect.
Exactly. A ripple effect.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Pentateuch as this, like, blueprint for life.
Right.
Which is how we've been kind of framing it. Yeah. It's not like this rigid, do this, don't do that kind of thing.
No.
It's more like principles.
Yes. Principles for living.
That are supposed to lead us to.
To wholeness.
Okay.
To flourishing as individuals and as a community.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's about reflecting God, right? His love, his justice, his mercy out in the world.
Living it out.
Living it out. And that message, that's for everyone.
It is. It's universally applicable, I think.
100%.
It makes you wonder, though, why so much drama?
Right.
If God's so powerful.
Yeah.
If he knew we were going to mess things up.
Oh, he
knew. Why not just create things differently?
Right. Like skip all the bad parts?
Yeah. Like, couldn't he have just avoided all the heartache?
Well, there's the big question, isn't it? Free will versus predestination.
That's a whole other deep dive.
Oh, we could talk about that for hours.
Right. Centuries. People have been debating that.
Centuries. But I think what we see in the Pentateuch is this.
Okay.
God wants us to choose him.
Okay.
He wants a relationship with us, but not one that's forced, you know?
Okay, so it has to be a choice.
It has to be a choice. It has to be real.
Okay, yeah.
Because love that's forced, that's not love at all, is it?
No, it's not.
So even with the risk of us messing up, he gives us that freedom.
The freedom to choose.
The freedom to choose, because without that freedom, there's no real love.
Wow. That's a pretty amazing thought.
It is, isn't it?
When you really think about it.
It speaks volumes about God, doesn't it?
It really does.
That he would love us that much. To endure the pain, the disappointment.
Knowing that we might choose the wrong thing.
Knowing that we might reject him.
Wow.
That's real love.
That's true love.
It is.
And that brings us back to those covenants, right?
Yes, the covenants.
Because even when we do mess up.
Which we do.
He's still there.
He's always there.
He's not going anywhere.
Never.
It's like he's committed.
He's fully committed.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal. He's not changing his mind.
So those covenants, they're more than just promises.
They're more than just words on a page.
They're like a declaration of his commitment.
This is who I am, and I'm not backing down.
Wow.
And those signposts throughout history,
Yeah.
they're all pointing to that final redemption.
Yeah.
That restoration of what was broken way back in the garden.
That's good. That's good.
Back to the beginning.
Yeah. Full circle. It's interesting you mentioned the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about, like, going back to that, right?
Back to innocence, back to perfection.
Yeah, like, that's the goal.
Right.
But what if the Pentateuch is saying, like, no, that's not it at all?
Interesting.
What if it's about moving forward?
Okay.
Creating something new?
Paradise.
Yeah. But this time, it's built on, like...
On grace.
Grace. And second chances.
I know you're talking.
Because we're going to need those.
We are. But that's what's so beautiful about it, right?
Right.
We're not meant to be stuck in this endless cycle of messing up and begging for forgiveness.
Right. Right.
It's about growing. It's about changing. It's about becoming more like him.
So it's not just about, like, getting to heaven when we die.
No, it's about bringing heaven here.
Wow.
Right now. To earth.
It's a pretty tall order, I think.
It is a tall order.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting one, too.
Okay, how so?
Because imagine it.
Okay.
A world where God's love, his justice, his mercy, they're not just ideas.
Right.
They're reality.
They're lived out.
They're lived out.
Okay, I love that. But let's be real for a second.
Okay.
Even with God's help, the Israelites really struggled to, like, live that out.
They did.
40 years.
Yeah.
Wandering in the wilderness.
It's a long time to learn a lesson.
It is. It makes me feel a little bit better about my own,
Shortcomings.
Yeah.
Me too.
Right.
We all have them.
But even in those stories,
Yeah.
where they're complaining and doubting,
Right.
we see God's grace.
We do.
We see his patience.
He doesn't give up on them.
He doesn't.
Even when they're at their worst.
Wow. Which is kind of encouraging, right?
It is.
Because if he can put up with them.
He can put up with us.
Right. He can handle our stuff.
He can handle it. And that's the message of the whole Bible, really.
Okay.
God's love isn't based on our performance.
It's not like we earn it.
No, it's a gift, freely given.
Okay, so we can't mess it up.
You can't mess it up. It's that amazing.
Okay, so how does all of this tie back into the Exodus?
The Exodus.
You mentioned it earlier. It's this pivotal moment.
It is.
In this bigger story.
It's a game changer.
Why is it so significant?
Think of it like this. The Exodus is a symbol of God's power to rescue, to deliver. It's like his way of saying, I stand with the oppressed.
Okay.
I'm on the side of the marginalized.
The people who are struggling.
The people who are struggling, the people who are forgotten.
Wow.
He's a God who steps in.
He takes action.
He takes action. He fights for those who can't fight for themselves.
He's an advocate.
He is. He's the ultimate advocate.
Okay.
So the Exodus, it's a story about liberation.
Okay.
About freedom from captivity.
And we all long for that, don't we?
Deep down, I think we all do.
In some way?
Yeah.
Whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual?
Absolutely. We all want to be free.
Think about that image of the Red Sea.
Oh, I know, right? Parting like that.
It's iconic.
It's like God making a way where there's no way.
Yeah. Breaking down barriers.
Breaking down barriers, setting his people free.
And you said earlier that the Exodus, it foreshadows something even bigger.
It does.
An even greater redemption story.
Yeah, right.
One that's on a much larger scale.
Exactly. It points to the ultimate liberation.
Oh, okay.
And that's found in Jesus Christ.
Okay, so again, Jesus is like...
The fulfillment of that Exodus story.
Okay, so just like Moses led them out of Egypt.
Right.
Jesus leads us out.
Out of our sin.
Out of our spiritual death.
Yes.
Yeah.
He sets us free from that.
So even in this ancient story,
it's all connected.
We're seeing glimpses of, like
the gospel.
The gospel, God's love, his plan for salvation.
It's all there.
It's amazing how it all comes together, right?
Isn't it? It's like this beautiful tapestry, woven together with threads of redemption and hope.
And God's faithfulness.
His faithfulness. It's incredible.
It really is. We've talked about creation, sin, covenants, laws.
Wilderness wanderings, leadership, redemption.
We've covered so much.
We have.
But there's one key theme we haven't really touched on yet.
And what is that?
The Promised Land.
Ah, yes, the Promised Land.
Right.
That land flowing with milk and honey.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. What is the Promised Land?
It's the destination. It's what the Israelites are striving for.
Okay.
This land of abundance, of blessing.
Okay, but it's not just a physical place, is it?
That's the thing, right?
It feels symbolic.
It is. It represents something much, much bigger.
Okay, what's the bigger picture then? What does the Promised Land represent?
It's God's blessing, his faithfulness to his promises.
Okay.
And it's the fulfillment of his purposes for his people.
Wow.
It's a picture of rest.
Okay.
Of peace, of wholeness.
Things that, honestly, I think we all long for.
Don't we?
Yeah.
We really do.
On a deep level.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, though, because they never actually get there, do they?
That's the irony, isn't it?
In the Pentateuch.
In the Pentateuch, yeah.
Like, Moses dies.
Right before they cross the Jordan.
Right. And then the actually conquering of the land and the settling.
That happens later.
That's later.
In the other books.
It's like they're always almost there.
So close.
But not quite.
Not quite there yet.
And I think that's significant, don't you?
I do. I think it's very significant.
What do you think it means?
I think it means that the Promised Land, it's not just a destination.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It's the process of getting there.
Exactly. It's something we're striving for.
Okay.
Both individually and as a community, as a people.
We're together.
They're together.
Okay.
But it's a journey that we may not finish in this lifetime.
Wow. Okay. So it's more about the transformation that happens along the way.
Yes. That's it.
Like the experiences we have, the good, the bad.
The failures, the victories.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
It's all part of the journey.
It's all shaping us.
And how we respond to those things.
Yes. Our response is everything.
It really is, isn't it?
It is. It shows us what we're made of.
It reveals our character.
Exactly. It's about trusting God even when we don't see the results.
Okay.
Even when it feels like he's silent,
Yeah.
He's still working.
He's still there.
He's still there.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like...
Like he's forgotten about us.
Yeah. Or like nothing's happening.
Right.
Or it's taking too long.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. But that's when we have to remember...
That he's faithful.
That he's faithful.
He is. He doesn't break his promises.
Okay, that's really reassuring.
Isn't it?
Especially when we're going through those wilderness seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Those times when it feels like...
Like we're never going to reach the promised land?
Right. Like it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But the Israelites, they're like our example.
They are. They're our wilderness companions.
Right.
We can look at them and go, okay, we're not alone in this.
Right. Right. They messed up. We mess up.
They doubted.
Yep.
But God was faithful to them.
He was. And he's faithful to us.
He is. He's with us every step of the way.
This has been amazing. We've covered so much ground.
I have.
From creation to covenant to redemption.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's incredible how these stories still speak to us today.
They really do.
Don't they?
They're timeless.
They are.
Yeah.
But before we get too sentimental,
right,
let's bring it back to our listener for a second.
Okay.
If the Pentateuch is this blueprint for life,
yes,
that we've been unpacking,
we have.
What's the one thing we want them to remember?
Oh, that's a good question. What is the one thing?
When this is all said and done, what's the takeaway? What's the takeaway?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so much there,
I know. It's a lot to process.
It really is. But I think if I had to pick just one thing,
okay, yeah,
it's that you're not alone.
Okay, in all of this.
Trying to figure life out.
Yeah. In the struggles, the doubts, the joys, all of it. These stories, they're here to remind us that we're part of something so much bigger.
So much bigger than ourselves.
Way bigger. It's a story that started long before us.
Okay.
And it's going to continue long after we're gone.
Right. So we're like a small part.
A small but important part.
Of this grand narrative.
Exactly. And in that narrative, in God's story, we all have a role to play.
Okay, I like that. So it's not just about, like, watching it all unfold.
No. We're not passive observers.
We're in it.
We're in it. We're participants. We get to be part of what God is doing.
Wow, okay. I like that a lot. It's active.
It's an active faith.
It is. And it's amazing to me how, even in a text as old as the Pentateuch, I know, right? Thousands of years old.
Yeah. We're still asking the same questions.
The big ones never go away, do they?
They don't. Like, what's the point?
Right. What's my purpose? Who am I?
Why are we here?
Why are we here? What does it all mean?
Right. And it makes you realize we're not that different.
From those people back then.
Yeah. Like, we're still human.
We are. We're still wrestling with the same stuff.
Still messing up.
Still needing grace.
Still longing for that promised land.
Yes. Still on that journey.
It's encouraging in a way.
It is.
To know that we're not the first ones to go through this.
Right. We're not alone. And the Pentateuch, I mean.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder of that.
It is. And regardless of how you approach it.
Whether you're coming at it from a faith perspective or not.
Yeah, as a believer or just like interested in history.
It's undeniable.
That's had a huge impact.
On our culture, on our world.
On everything. It's one of the most influential texts ever written.
It really is. But it's also,
What?
It's not always easy to read.
No, it's intense.
It's intense. There's some violence. There's a lot of laws. It's a lot to take in.
It can be overwhelming.
Absolutely. Even for someone who's been studying it for years, you know?
Oh, yeah. You can always learn something new.
Always.
Always a new layer to uncover.
Right. And I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
It's like this endless well of wisdom.
It is. And even though it doesn't shy away from the hard stuff.
No, it doesn't. It goes there.
It goes there. The consequences, the brokenness.
Yeah.
The messiness of life.
But that's real life, right?
Exactly. And I think it's in those messy, complicated places that we often find the most truth.
That's where the growth happens, isn't it?
Yes. The transformation. Because it's in those moments when we're wrestling with God, wrestling with ourselves, that we discover who we really are.
We come face to face with our own brokenness.
But also with God's grace.
Right, and his love.
His love that never lets us go.
It's like those wilderness experiences, as tough as they are, they have this way of making us appreciate the good times even more.
That's so true. Because when you've been through something hard, you never take the easy times for granted.
Right, you have a new perspective.
And it refines our faith, you know?
It does. It strengthens it.
It deepens our compassion.
Makes us more understanding of others.
Exactly. Because we've been there.
We get it.
We get it. And ultimately, it draws us closer to God.
Wow.
In a way that we never could have imagined.
So for our listener who's maybe just starting to explore the Pentateuch.
What advice would you give them?
What advice would you give them? Where do they even begin?
Start with an open mind.
Okay, be open.
Be curious.
Ask questions.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Even the hard ones.
Especially the hard ones.
Because that's how we grow.
That's how we learn.
Yeah.
And don't get bogged down in the details.
Okay, so we don't have to understand every single thing.
No. Sometimes it's okay to just sit with it.
Just be with it.
Yeah, let the stories wash over you.
Experience it.
Exactly. Experience it. Feel it. See what resonates with you.
See what God's saying.
Exactly. Because it's a conversation, right?
It is. It's a dialogue.
It's God speaking to us.
And we're listening.
And we're responding. And sometimes the best response is just to be quiet.
To be still.
And to listen.
So find a translation you like.
One that speaks to you.
Make some time.
Create space.
For reflection.
And just be present with it.
I love that. And you know what?
What?
You might be surprised.
By what?
By what you discover.
About the text.
About the text, about God, about yourself.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
It is. It's like this journey of discovery.
And it never ends. There's always something new to learn.
This has been amazing.
It has.
Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Pentateuch.
The pleasure was all mine. It's been a joy to explore these stories with you.
It really has. And to our listener, we hope you've been inspired to dive in yourself.
Yes. Pick up the Pentateuch and see what treasures you find.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly,
keep letting these stories shape your life.
Until next time.
See you then.